First of all, I want to thank Pablo Beneito, Stephen Hirtenstein, and Even Arabi Society from Oxford very much for inviting me to this symposium. I'd like to focus this talk on how Ibn Arabi's concepts of cosmos, space, and time shape his concepts of movement and therefore journey, but journey in a cosmological sense, in its cosmological sense. First of all, I'd like to talk about his concept of space and the shape of the space and the universe in Ibn Arabi. To him, as to most of the classical Muslim and non-Muslim philosophers, the universal body, that is to say the whole observable universe, is a sphere. So why is it a sphere, the universe? Why did he choose this figure, this geometrical figure? Because this has an obvious metaphysical sense. In a passage of Futuhat, he says that in the world of shape, the affair or the order has no escape from taking the form of a circle, since it does not go back to God by the path on which it emerged from him, but extends until it reaches its place of origin. This does not happen in a linear shape, or it would never go back to him. Hence, there is no escape from circularity in both the suprasensory and sensory domains. It is because he created the cosmos in his form that his creation is circular in shape. So according to this passage, we have, in first place, I find two different reasons for the circularity of the creation. The first one is that the whole creation returns to its origin, and the only way we have to go back to our origin is making or tracing a circle. And in second place, the world, it's a circle because it was created according to God's image. And as God is infinite, the most similar, the closest figure to infinity is the circle, no? Because when we see a circle or a sphere, we cannot tell where is its beginning or its end, no? He also says in another passage of Futuhat, he says that the cosmos is globular in shape, so in his sense the human being longs for his beginning, for we emerged from non-existence into existence through him, and to him we shall return. Do you not see, when you began, that a circle was established? Having begun through it, you will never cease passing around it until you reach its first point, and then you will become a circle. So in this passage, we find like a third reason for, or a third explanation for the circularity of the world, which is the nostalgia of the human being of returning to its origin. No? The humankind, by the end of its existence, its life, wants and longs for returning to its origin, its beginning. And also he says something very interesting, that is that when we make a circular way, we follow a circular journey, we become that circle, no? That sphere. Actually, if we look upon his Istilahat Sufiya, his glossary of technical terms, the word insan kamil, perfect human, or yes, the universal human being, one of the synonyms we find, it's a sphere. But not only the universe and the spheres have a spherical shape, every element of creation is somehow spherical too. And he says that God's affair in the things is infinite, for a circle has no first and no last. The first shape that accepted the old body was the circular shape, that is the celestial shape. Since the things that come to be from God come to be at the movement of these spheres, their shape being the form of the celestial sphere, or near to it. Hence, there is no animal, tree, leaf, stone, or body that has no inclination towards circularity. However, circularity is delicate in some things, while it becomes clearly manifest in other things. That is why the globular shape is the most excellent of all shapes. So here we have again the idea of God's infinity and creation similar to God and similar to the characteristics or God features. One of them would be the infinity. So that's why the things tend to be spherical. But also the things inside, within the creation, the objects tend to be circular because the movement of the cosmos is rotative, no? Because of the rotation of the spheres. It's kind of like the things become contaminated, no? With that circular movement. And the spherical nature of the universe was an idea upheld in both classical philosophers and physics, as well as in Islamic thinkers. For example, we find in the Ikhwana Safa, this group of philosophers from the 9th century, that a similar explanation, no, to this. They said that the things tend to be spherical because of the movement. No, they are under the influence of the rotative motion of the spheres, and also that they said that the circle and the sphere and the circular movement are the best bodily possible figure and the best form of movement, given the superiority of this from a geometrical point of view, no? The superiority of the sphere among the rest of figures, triangles and squares and things. God must necessarily have granted this form to his creation. So here we could see a fourth reason for the creation, the world in a spherical shape, although it is, I have taken it from the Ikhwana Safa, not from even Arabi. So yes, as the sphere is the best geometrical figure, God, there is like an upward analogy, no? Like parting from our science and our patterns, we make a conclusion with can you say deduction? Deduction? A deduction, no? Applied to God, but this was a common idea. The sphere is the first geometrical figure, so God used, he couldn't use any other figure but the sphere for his creation. There is a very interesting passage in Futuhat in which he says that, Ibn Arabi, that we see in the creation figures showing square, things showing square, triangular, or hexagonal shapes, and so on, without an end, but virtually, not in reality. So if we see squares or other kind of figures, it is a kind of illusion. In reality, they are spheres because they are perfect. No? The universe, as we have seen, it follows a circular way because it returns to its origin, and also because they reflect the image of God. This is something very well. I find it very complicated. In the treatise I worked about for my PhD thesis, he repeated an idea a lot, which is that God knew himself and he knew the world, and so he created the world with a shape. No? And he doesn't say anything else. He says, well, to those who have a clear mind, understand what this means. No? So there is a relationship between the shape of the world, the shape of God, and the knowledge that God has of his own essence and the essence of the world. So there is kind of an identification between the form or the shape of the world and the shape of God. Leaving aside space and focusing now on time, on his concept of time. Well, time if we consider it as a cyclic structure of days, weeks, and years, it is also a circle. It is circular, but in an abstract sense. Time in Islam, and I think in all the monotheistic religion, they believed in a linear concept of time, not an eternal recurrence such as other religions or Eastern religions, no. But for example, I mean, it's linear, but at the same time is cyclic, because it makes one single cycle. It doesn't repeat itself. The history doesn't repeat itself time and again. But it is true that the existence has a beginning, and in the end it returns to its origin, but only once, no? Not like in other Eastern religions. And he says about this, he says, the affair of the world is cyclic, dawri, and its development circuitous, falaki. The return goes back to the beginning, and the whole becomes balanced in the existential development. The wera, labis, turning into what is worn, malbus, and the intelligible become intangible, ma'qul wa mahsus. For the discovery of the secrets of the macrocosm in the microcosm is a re-establishment. In the same way as God has originated you, so you will return to him. This is from Quran 7:29. It is for that reason that those blinded by their intellects make the resurrection out to be a vain recurrence. So here, from this passage, I point out two ideas. One is that there is a single return to the origin, as I have said before, and in second place, that the coming back, that the returning, means also a reversal of the order, a change of the order of things, because he says that the intelligible becomes tangible, and the wearer, the person who is wearing something, becomes the clothes, no? So it's a complete reversal of the existence, and this is, I'm not quite sure what it means, but I think it's very interesting. So, leaving aside time and focusing on movement, his concept of movement, well, according to the Akbarian and classical patterns of cosmology, emotion is necessary for time to exist, because the revolutions of the planets and the sphere are necessary for us to perceive the pass of time. We need the movement of the sun and the moon to be aware that time exists. No, but it also happened on the contrary. Movement requires time. No, times require movement, but also movement requires time, because for anything to start a movement, a motion, it is necessary time, no matter how short this fraction of time may be. No, if I'm moving something, you perceive the moving at the same time that you perceive the pass of time. No, you need time to see the movement. No, so these two concepts are really interrelated between them both. And nevertheless, Ibn Arabi maintains that what the human eye perceives as motion is not motion, but is the continuous annihilation and recreation of something in different places. No, if I For example, if I move my hand, I am not moving anything. It's just that my hand disappears here and reappears here and disappears here and reappears here. No, it's the renewal creation all the time. So he criticizes the people who believe that motion exists, has a real existence. And he says that when we perceive, there is nothing but the body itself, the place, and the fact that it occupied a place next to that which it occupied before. But those who claim that there is some real thing called motion which got into the body and caused it to change from one place to another, they have to prove it. No? This is from Futuhat also. So there is no movement and no motion at all, but only annihilation and recreation. So given that the cosmos is continuously being recreated, we could also say that at the smallest level of existence, as the molecular level of existence, the matter is continuously making a circular journey to its origin, because things are all the time being dissolved and returning to the prime matter, to the hyula, which they were originated out. No, so it's like at the smallest levels in the universe and the largest scale, everything is making a circular journey to its origin. With regard to the motion of the to the concept of motion and time, Ibn Arabi said that they were delusory, both of them, and actually he had he wrote a sentence. He wrote a book about time, but it's lost. But he wrote chapters in Futuhat about time, very interesting. And he said that time doesn't have, it's something that doesn't exist. But in some other passages he says that it has a relative existence. And so we can see the same thing about motion. Well, I'm going to say only two last things. I would like to talk about his concept of the greatest element as the fundamental and basic element of creation, is as the center of the sphere, which is the cosmos, but maybe later because we don't have time. And I will say, just to finish, that the human trust in God is circular because God delegates in man as his vice regent, as his Khalifa, and at the same time, a man places his trust in God. So here we have another example of circular movement between God and his creature. And also, for example, Ibn Arabi also says that on a speech, if we consider the universe as divine speech, the word begins and ends also with a direct allocution of God, which is kun in the beginning, no, the be. And when he talked to the people who will enter the paradise and people who will enter the hell, no, so those are the two only occasion of direct speech from God to their creatures, and they take place in the beginning and in the end, because it's like also are returning to the way the world was created, which was by a word. Thank you very much.